Hello dear students, once again welcome to another mains exclusive program session. Here we are on the second day of Science and Tech. As you've seen yesterday, we have discussed the most probable paths that could come from your biotech, health and your areas of your space, and that has a huge amount of weightage as it is. Today, as I had promised, we are moving into another area that has, areas that has a lot of weightage, which is your emerging IT, technologies, etc. and Indian achievements in any of these. So again, yesterday we had discussed 9 important probable areas. Today we again discuss the rest of it. In total, in these two sessions, we would have covered, at the end of it, we would have covered almost 18 important probable areas from where you can get your science and tech questions. So without much delay, let's go into the first topic that I have to discuss, which is called as your nanotechnology. See, now when I'm talking about nanotechnology, I've mentioned it yesterday itself that the kind of question that has come previously is just very direct, very specific kind of a question, which asks what is nanotechnology or describe what nanotechnology is and the applications of nanotechnology in health. Just preparing ourselves for a very similar kind of a thing. So obviously we'll discuss that previous year question. Along with that, just try, I'm also equipping you for, in case they tend to ask a very simplistic question like what are the applications of nanotechnology in environment or nanotechnology in your agriculture or something of that sort. So first of all, what is nanotechnology? Nanotechnology actually involves the understanding, the usage and the control of matter at a nanometer scale. Okay, what is this nanometer? You all are aware that is the 10⁻⁹ meter scale. Now the idea is that when any particle has been reduced to this levels, or the size of the particle comes about to this 10⁻⁹ meters, the particle shows quite different features from its own larger scale particle. One example that I like to put forward over here is that you would have seen your normal gold particles. Gold particles normally put together is what we see as in a yellowish, bright yellow kind of a color. But if you created a nanoparticle of gold and you went to that kind of a size, it appears to be black in color. What is the meaning of it? It means that the amount of light, because generally what is the color that we see of an object? The color of any object is the light reflected from that particular object. So when it's a large scale particle, the light reflected that we see is yellow. But when it becomes into a much more smaller scale particle, it so happens that a large amount of light gets absorbed and not much of light gets reflected back. And this is what leads to a black colored particle. So understand this complete change of features when certain substances are reduced to its nanoscale, and these can be very useful for us. For example, what are such features? Any question of nanotechnology, you have to ensure as to why we are even bothered about this field of technology. It's because in nanotechnology, with change in dimensions, the particles' colors can change. There can be an increase in surface area. That means using nanoparticles, you can hope to achieve faster reactions because these are tinier particles. And with smaller particle size, what happens is any activity that you can do, if you put large quantities of them, it can happen in a quicker manner. When it comes to any kind of strength, it can be turned into much stronger, more durable, more conductive than their large scale counterparts. So be it electricity, be it, you would have very clearly heard about certain things called as your carbon nanotubes. The reason why we have even these kind of structures is because it is able to do without compromising certain features of carbon. What happens is, for example, carbon generally is biodegradable in nature. So carbon nanotube is also biodegradable in nature. But on the other hand, when you create a nanotube, what happens is the conductivity of that structure increases. The kind of drug delivery that can happen with it increases. So all of this is an added point. So make sure you talk about the features of nanotechnology. particles. Okay. Now, looking at the applications, first let's look at the applications in agriculture. When it comes to nano technology in agriculture, one current affair plus application that you should be aware of is something called as nano fertilizers or nano pesticides. Nano fertilizers or nano pesticides are considered excellent. The reason being that in the first place, you don't need to compromise your soil's fertility. Okay, what happens is, because of these are in smaller sizes, you require only much minimal quantities of it to be put into the soil. So it's a controlled release of nutrients and pesticides. It also tries to reduce your waste and pollution that happens because of use of your fertilizers. One such example of your nano fertilizers are your zinc oxide nano fertilizer that can be used for enhanced yield. Now, speaking about nano fertilizer, it is so, if a question does come about agriculture, one more point to be added over there is India has already made huge strides when it comes to nano fertilizers. Our Agriculture Research Institute, ICAR, has already devised certain nano fertilizers. Now, we are on the brink of actually opening up certain nano fertilizer factories in countries like Brazil. That is actually a current affair associated with this. Okay, so nano fertilizers also, there is also an added advantage of nano fertilizers. The fact being that, see, in the first place itself, they are quite small in size. So it will do the excellent work of whatever this fertilizer has to do. Now, on top of it, that fertilizer can also be coated with different things. Because it's small in size, it has the scope of getting coated with different other minerals that this particular plant will need. Okay, so nano fertilizers have that ability. Next thing is something called as disease detection. So you have certain biosensors. I have already mentioned yesterday what biosensors are. These are those physical setups where, because of certain biological quantity, it might be the respiration rate, it might be the acidity, it can be due to any biological quantity. What happens is variations are seen, and those variations can be used to detect if that plant is having some trouble or if there's any disease affected in the plant, etc. So here again, you will see that nano biosensors are created to detect plant pathogens. Again, it is possible because when you have certain nanoparticles, as I said, they can easily conduct electricity. They can take any biosignal and easily convert it into electricity. So you can again see ICAR research on nano diagnostics for blight in rice has been happening. So again, that is an example for the same. The point is, anytime you discuss what that particular thing will do, the application, you have to quote the property of nanoparticles that makes it possible for it to happen. Next thing is food packaging. Food packaging, when it comes to nano, there are certain structures called as nano composites. Nano composites, when added with your grains, etc., can easily absorb the moisture, and this can improve the shelf life and any kind of spoilage that exists for certain crops. Okay, so for example, one such nano composite is your nano silver that is certainly put in certain kinds of food containers. So the point over here is, when it comes to food packaging or when it comes to grain storage, in all of these aspects, different features of nanoparticles can be used. Moving forward, the different uses of nanotechnology in environment. So I do hope if a question does come about agriculture also, you can include the points of environment. The reason being that any kind of agricultural improvements generally have an impact on the betterment of the environment also. For example, as we discussed earlier, the nano fertilizer that is there, when you use the nano fertilizer, it's good for the plant and it's good for the environment also. Now, let's move on to this one. Here you will see the different other applications of nanotech in environment. One is for water purification. Your nano materials which are there can easily remove certain heavy metals, pathogens, etc. That is again because I told you earlier, your nanoparticles have a high surface area. So what happens is the kind of chemical reactions that you hope to achieve will happen in a quicker manner. In this manner, they can easily absorb whatever is the heavy metal or any other kind of unwanted chemicals. That means nanoparticles can be used for not just bio, any kind of remediation. Okay. So, for example, your nano-silver filters, carbon nanotube membranes, all of these are used to remove heavy metals and pathogens. Moving over, your nanoparticles can be used for air filtration. Air filtration means that, again, just like we have any kind of filter, in filters you have a very semi-permeable membrane. Normally, the semi-permeable membrane, even though it is there, what happens is some impurities and all can cross through it. But here, what happens is you can use nanofibers to create certain filters. Nanofibers are extremely precise and tiny and minuscule. So what happens is it can prevent the unwanted entry of any kind of pathogens. So here again, for air filtration, nanofibers trap particulate matter, thereby not leaving that particulate matter into the environment. You know that when it comes to particulate matter, your PM 2.5 is something that is considered to be extremely dangerous, and it can even enter into our respiratory systems. So nanofibers have the ability to filter out this particulate matter also. So you will see the examples of it: nano-enabled masks, filters, etc. Then moving over, you have waste management. You have certain products which are called as nanocatalysts. These nanocatalysts can easily break down the pollutants into simpler substances that are less harmful for the environment. For example, your titanium dioxide nanoparticles that are used for certain degradation of certain dyes. You know for a fact that one of the major source of pollutants into rivers like your Ganga and Yamuna are the different fabric industries and the dye industries that are on the banks of the river. So if you have such kind of a setup over there, that can actually prevent, or not prevent, it can actually purify these river systems of this dye content. Moving over, nanoparticles are also used in certain renewable energy innovations. For example, nanomaterials are put into certain solar cells. Why? Why? Because when you have the normal solar cells coated with nanoparticles, it has a much more high absorption rate than your large scale particles. That means in that same amount of area, if you have a normal large scale particle and in another area you have a nano coated solar panel, you will see that the amount of solar energy absorbed by the nano coated solar panel is much higher than the large scale normal one that is there. So this again is beneficial for the environment. Moving forward, we also have certain applications more in your energy sector. As I just told you about solar energy, you have certain nano-structured coatings that can increase efficiency, wherein, for example, you are taking the solar cell and you are coating it with perovskite nano solar cells. Then when it comes to hydrogen production and storage also, nanocatalysts, because again of the small size, they can improve the efficiency of creating the fuel. Again, you have certain platinum based nanoparticle catalysts that are currently even used in your hydrogen cells, hydrogen fuel cells. Then moving over to batteries and supercapacitors. Nanomaterials can enhance storage capacity because again, small surface area. So you can use that even in lithium ion batteries to have much more higher battery efficiency. Okay. Now moving over to your different applications of nanotech in defense. This is again another area where, see, if they generally even ask you a question, ensure that you try to have maximum points and maximum examples into the answer. The reason, for example, if they ask how is nanotechnology beneficial to human life, it's a very general question. So, but at that point, all of these, I think over the last 4 slides, we would have on an average discussed at least 16, 17 points as to how nanotech is helpful. So try to include all of this in the subsections itself so that the examiner can understand that you have thought about it in depth. Now coming into the different applications in defense, you will see that nanotech can be used to create lightweight armor. That means certain nanocomposite materials can be used to create bulletproof vests. Bulletproof vest, for example, this is again happening something, we've tried this in India also. The jacket is coated with Kevlar, which is already a very hard substance, and Kevlar is again coated with nano ceramics. So what happens is it is a very light armor, but also it is a bulletproof thing. So this is considered to be very useful for the military. Then coming into stealth technology. Nano coatings on certain structures can reduce radar signature. That means when you're coating certain things in, and this is one example again. So for it's some of the satellites that ISRO sends. ISRO coats the satellite with the blackest black. Now you think the black that you have seen on Earth, like normally would be the black color that is there, but then ISRO wanted it to, NASA wanted it to be so deeply black in color that they have coated their structures with certain nanoparticles. When you coat certain structures with nanoparticles, what happens is, again, as I just mentioned, it can even be avoided from the radar signals of other countries if they're trying to detect it. So in defense research and development, this is quite important. Finally, coming to certain sensors, you will see that to detect certain explosives, chemical agents, etc., you can use certain nano material based sensors. Okay, so these are all the important applications of nanotechnology in defense, energy, agriculture and environment. Now coming to the previous year question. So in previous year, the question was asked specifically about the health sector. The question reads as, what do you understand by nanotechnology and how is it helping in the health sector? So when you have a question like this, how to approach it? First of all, you talk about what is nanotechnology, because they have asked you to do that. So you can say in healthcare, nanotechnology forms the basis of something called as nanomedicine, where nanoparticles, nano devices and nanomaterials are used for better diagnosis, treatment and prevention of diseases. So if you take any, and this applies also, when you get any question where they are asking, okay, there is this one thing, how is it affecting the health sector? Let's say there is digital public infrastructure in our country. How is it useful for the health structure? A very good structure that I think for the answer would be, when they ask you health, it's a very broad field. But instead of just listing down the points of health sector, you can divide, because in health, what are the primary things that you have? You have diagnosis, treatment and prevention. These are 3 parts of any kind of health sector that is there. Diagnosis, treatment and prevention. So instead of broadly saying, okay, in the health sector, these are the uses, if you can maybe divide the points into, in diagnosis, how it will help. In treatment, how it will help. And in prevention, how it will help. Again, I feel your answer has a better chances of being much more focused to the question, and even the appeal of the answer increases a little bit more. Coming to this answer, so I also dealt it on that kind of a structure where I've mentioned that the reason when it comes to nanotechnology is basically used in all kinds of or different types of nanomedicine that is there. Now, the reason why it is used in nanomedicine is because it improves the precision, it reduces side effects and enables early disease detection. So these are the reasons why we have used nanomaterials in certain parts. Now coming into the question as to what stages it helps in. So it helps in prevention, diagnosis, therapy. So in prevention, for example, your antimicrobial nano coatings on hospital surfaces. Diagnosis, you have certain nano biosensors that can detect biomarkers that are there in your body. Then in therapy, you can also have different kinds of, for example, when you are having your structures, your slings or your any kind of internal structures, you can, instead of using your normal the rods or anything, you can use nanofiber scaffolds in your body that will degenerate, like, it'll get decomposed even after the particular time period. And when it comes to nanotechnology, any kind of interrelationship between any of these sectors can also made possible. So on the whole, when you use nanotechnology, it is precise, reduce side effects, early disease detection also happens, it reduces the hospital stay of the person, and it improves the treatment outcomes, and finally it saves cost. I strongly believe whenever they ask about any kind of technology, you have to show the human angle of it very directly. Even when I'm saying human angle, just don't write the applications. How that application will benefit a human being and how that is going to better. If they ask about an Indian context, then Indian context you have to mention. But otherwise, ensure that you mention the human angle. So here on one angle, there is precision, lack of side effects, etc. But here, what is the human angle of it? The human angle is that it reduces hospital stays, improves treatment outcomes, and even saves cost. Now, if you are not happy with this kind of a structure, then the other kind of structure that you can use for telling the answers, just listing down the points and trying to tell as to how it will help. For example, when you look at the different applications of nanotechnology in health, it will help in targeted drug delivery. Targeted drug delivery means nanoparticles can very easily carry or very quickly carry the drugs to those diseased cells like your cancer cells. So they can carry drugs directly to the diseased cells, reducing the side effects and even improving effectiveness. Moving over, in the diagnostics, you can use certain things called as your nanobiosensors. Nanobiosensors actually can detect diseases at a very early stage. So again, what they try to do is that, again, what these nanobiosensors detect are something called as your biomarkers. Okay. Then you have something called as your imaging and monitoring. This is something that you would have studied when it comes to your prelims exam also, where what happens is, when it comes to your nanomaterials, there is a technology called as your quantum dots. Quantum dots means you are using nano-sized particles instead of your normal LEDs. So what happens is, because you are using nano-sized particles, they are able to generate different colors that can give a certain depth to your images. You would have heard about the QLEDs, the quantum dot technology. All of these uses this kind of a nano material. So here again, in imaging and monitoring, you can use your different quantum dots and magnetic nanoparticles to improve the images that you get out of MRI, your PET scans, etc. Okay. Now, moving on to your regenerative medicine. Nanomaterials can be used as scaffolds for new tissues to grow, so that the tissue grows in that proper structure that is needed. For certain antimicrobial coatings that I had mentioned earlier, where nanosilver, zinc oxide are used in certain wound dressings, when it comes to certain hospital surfaces, they are coated with it, etc. Coming to personalized medicines, again, nanotechnology allows very specific tailored treatments for different kinds of diseases. So that is also mentioned over here. So now this is all the different applications of nanotechnology in health. So then now coming to the concluding part of the answer, you can move over and say that, see, nanotechnology outperforms certain conventional methods because it has very minimizing side effects. When you're using normal drugs, what happens is, because of its large surface area, it might affect certain other parts also. But in nanotechnology, you are having very targeted drug delivery. Targeted drug delivery means only to that part that is needed will the drug get delivered. So there is minimizing of side effects of drugs, detecting diseases early, and even enabling personalized treatments. But however, there is a lot of discussion when it comes to the health sector, at least there's a lot of discussion going on as to how then, what are the kinds of maybe perceived toxicity of these nanoparticles. Do they degrade? What is the level of, or what is the rate at which the degradation happens? So there's a lot of concern involving that. Nevertheless, if you had to have a way forward when it came to nanotech, is that to have nanotech along with AI-driven health analytics for more smarter drug delivery. What is the meaning of that? It means that instead of just perceiving, even right now when we are using nanoparticles and doing drug delivery, it is the human only that is doing it. But instead of that, now if you are trying to, you feed a patient's details and you are saying that, okay, this patient is so of age, this is the condition that is there, and they have to have, they need to be prescribed this drug. Using certain artificial intelligence tools, you will be able to understand what is the frequency in which it has to be given and how to operate that. So even that kind of an analytics can be very helpful to ensure that whatever precision that we are trying to achieve through nanotech, it is again taken up to the next level. Then develop indigenous nano diagnostics for rural health in India under the Make in India initiative. Innovate low-cost nano filters, etc. for sterilizing even your public health centers. So these are all things through which even today a large number of people are not aware of the abilities of nanotechnology. So any of these things can actually be extended even to your normal public health centers, so that people are more aware of the benefits of this technology. I hope that area, now whenever a question does come about nanotech, you have all the pointers there. If a new sector is asked, what are the challenges, why is it, and every single answer that you write about nanotech, ensure that you write what makes nanotech much better than your normal other technologies that is there. I hope this part is now clear. Now we move on to the next topic that I have to deal with you, called as quantum computing. There's so much to be discussed over here. Now, when it comes to quantum computing, what exactly it is, there is a development in the Indian context. So, a question can clearly be asked from quantum computing. Moreover, there is a national quantum mission that is there. So, what we're going to discuss right now and connects all of these things. What is this quantum computing? What are its principles? What is India's development in it? What is this national quantum mission? All of these things. Okay, so question coming from any of these angles, connecting any of these angles, you will be able to tackle it in a proper manner. And obviously the applications of quantum computing, because trust me that if UPSC is asking a question on quantum computing, the crux of that question will be about the applications of quantum computing. Anyway, let's go into it. So quantum computing, as opposed to the normal idea where people think it is like some supercomputer or anything, it is not that. Quantum computing is a totally different kind of computing. Okay, why is it different? Because quantum computing uses the principles of quantum mechanics as opposed to your normal thing called as your classical mechanics. Okay, so normally in classical mechanics is where a certain particle has a low and like a nil energy level or a high energy level, etc. In quantum mechanics, the idea is that no, particles are not in like a 0 or a 1 stage. They can exist in any of the middle stages also between 0 and 1. So here, instead of using your normal bits that is there in your classical mechanics, which is 0 and 1, here what happens is in quantum computing, they use something called as qubits. qubits. Okay, and what are the speciality of qubits? Qubits means that a certain particle, now let's say there is a photon or something. Normally the belief is that photon has no energy at all, and then photon has, when you are giving certain energy to it, the photon gets its high energy. But quantum mechanics says that the photon, it's not going to exist in any of, it's not going to be like it will be in this stage or this stage. The photon can exist in any of these stages. In class, when I normally explain it, I try to take your attention into, or imagination into, the idea that, for example, if you have a switch, there's a 0 and a 1 for the switch, the on and the off for a switch. But imagine that intermediate condition where it is not on or off. Imagine a switch like that, where it can perform in that intermediary section, and in that intermediary section, based on the little amount of energy that comes, your light also varies according to it. Understand? Rather than having a 0 light or a 1 light, which is this light is off or the light is on, you have intermediate stages where there is 0.1% of light, 0.2% of light, 3% of light, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the idea of quantum computing. Again, here in quantum computing, you have three major principles. Three major principles are superposition, entanglement, and quantum tunneling. These are the three major kinds of principles that are there. Now, whenever any country they say they have achieved quantum supremacy, etc., it means that they have shown their ability to achieve all of these three stages, because quantum mechanics is not it's not an object, it's not something that you can just see around us. You have to make something behave in that manner, and you use quantum mechanics for it. For example, what is the superposition? Superposition means that the qubits can hold multiple states. That's what I just told you. Instead of having just two stages which are 0 or nil, any number of stages the qubit can hold. And what is the point about it? For example, you want to calculate the probability of something. Normally, you have just whole numbers with which you calculate the probability. But when it comes to qubits, you can get the probability to the minutest value. That means what? When you use qubits, you have massive computational power. You get much more higher, precise outcomes. Okay, so in superposition, what happens is the same qubit can hold multiple states, and because of multiple states, you can even calculate using the multiple states that are there. Entanglement, and entanglement is important for this year. The reason being that India achieved quantum entanglement, in these last few months. So then, what happens is they could, instead of asking about quantum computing, they can make and ask a specific question on quantum entanglement itself. So what exactly is quantum entanglement? Quantum entanglement means that you have qubits that are created, even though if they are separated by distance also, okay, even though they are not linked together by any distance or tube or anything, when the state of one qubit changes, simultaneously the state of that other qubit also changes. That means, for example, if the state of this qubit, its spin increased by 20%, this qubit's spin will also increase by 20%. So entanglement means they are connected in a way, they are linked in a way. So linked qubits will share their states instantly. That means what? Whenever you need any kind of secure communications or anything, we can use it. Entanglement is one term we'll be dealing with in detail very soon. Okay. Then coming into the last feature, which is called as quantum tunneling. Quantum tunneling means to escape any kind of, you are using optimization algorithms to escape any kind of low values that of energy that are possible. So what happens is you want this computation to keep continuing constantly. So what happens is you cannot have the energy drip or for the particles to be into lower energy levels. So what happens is they're continuously tunneling it in a way that the particle maintains an energy for this process to happen. Now, the point is, when it comes to superposition, entanglement and tunneling, once a particle or once a country is able to demonstrate all of these things is where you say a country has had quantum supremacy. But again, there are only reports of certain countries achieving quantum supremacy. It's not very based in actual evidence. Now, talking about the one thing that I just told you, which is important for this year, India achieved quantum entanglement. So, if they ask you what is quantum entanglement is the quantum phenomena where two particles, like a photon, can become linked such that any change in one instantly reflects in the other, regardless of distance. Okay, so here again it becomes so crucial for us, because why, you think about it. So let's say in our military system we are linking 3 computers using quantum technology. Okay, so 3 computers are linked using quantum technology, and each of them is transmitting data to another using qubits that are entangled. That means what? For example, there is a qubit over here, there's a qubit over here, and there's a qubit over here. When one qubit state changes, all of them will change, is what we just mentioned. So now imagine if somebody tries to enter into this system, if somebody tries to hack into this system, what is going to happen? By default, when they try to hack into itself, the state of the qubit will change. If the state of this qubit changes, this will change, this will change. That means even before the person is able to handle access, these systems can cut off, and what you can clearly detect if anybody has entered into your communication. So this is the reason, this is one of the most important uses of quantum entanglement, at least from the Indian perspective. So you will see that India has now achieved entanglement-based free space quantum communication over a distance exceeding 1 kilometer. It hopes to have this extended even to 50 kilometer, etc. Now, the major application of quantum entanglement is to have secure communication. So, based on the laws of quantum physics, any attempt to even observe or intercept this system will change the whole system's state. Got it? So, you can easily detect any kind of intrusion. Now, when I'm saying secure communication, understand it is secure military, financial and government communications. By demonstrating quantum entanglement, India has joined a list of elite countries like your USA, China, members of the EU that are able to do this kind of a quantum communication. So, in case the question gets asked like that. Okay, so what were we till now? I know it can be a confusing field, but so we started off with quantum computing. I told you the 3 principles of quantum computing, which is superposition, entanglement and tunneling. Out of that, entanglement again is important for us, so I just discussed entanglement. Now coming back to the quantum computing and what are its different applications, what needs to be or what is important for us in this aspect. First of all, as I just told you, one of the chief, most important applications of quantum computing happens to be in secure communication. So, mention that as the first point. Then moving on to others. For example, it can be even used in cyber security. Cyber security means that in cyber security, you have something called as quantum cryptography. Quantum cryptography. Now, using quantum cryptography, you can have safe communication for defense and finance. So, the idea is it can be into a code, it can be made into an unbreakable encryption to pass important information. Then, in pharmaceuticals and healthcare, see any field where you need to have extremely high predictive nature. Predictive nature means, for example, we know the pattern of 1 million of these, then what would be the pattern of the next million? normally it is practically impossible for even normal supercomputers also to do that kind of a prediction. But quantum computers are able to predict those structures, the reason being that, as I told you, they can exist in those intermediary energy levels. So here is where it becomes very important. For example, as I just told you, pharmaceutical and medicals, they can simulate certain molecular structures by predicting how that structure will be like. Now, when you know the structure of something, if you want to deliver a drug to a particular part in your cell or to a particular gene area in your cell, all of that can be made possible. So, faster drug delivery. Okay, now this predicting of structures, again, that is something that even yesterday we had discussed. For example, understanding the different structures of your protein, understanding the different kinds of, different kinds of folds that are there in the protein. All of that could be made possible by studying quantum computing. Then, in applications in artificial intelligence and big data, to speed up your machine learning, to provide so much of data sets into a machine, you can use quantum computing. Because again, as I told you, quantum computing delivers delivers data that, or delivers results that are there in the intermediary levels. So even that data can be fed into an AI system. So when you do that, what you get is better analytics. Then coming into financial modeling for any kind of risk analysis, any kind of portfolio creation, to not just portfolio creation, to have the perfect optimized portfolio for your clients. All of those things can be made possible by quantum computing, because again, all of these applications that I'm just discussing with you rely on mathematical models of probability, your different kinds of permutation, combination kind of a thing. So imagine quantum computer to be the highest level at which you can compute this. So any of these systems, for example, banks can be using it for predicting market trends, etc. In logistics and supply chain, to solve very complex routing problems, how to quickly deliver certain products with very less turnaround time. Then coming into material science, for example, to discover new materials with desired properties, to have a quicker analysis of chemical structures. You can use quantum computing. Then for weather and climate modeling, again, what is happening in weather and climate modeling? Massive data sets are provided for giving accurate forecasts. So process your massive data sets for accurate forecasts for disaster preparedness, agriculture, etc. That will be useful. When I talked about national security, again, I had mentioned about your secure communications, code breaking, surveillance analysis, etc. For all of that also, you can use quantum computing. So it's very rare that they would, because it's a very upcoming field, there are no chances where they can just ask you, okay, describe all the importance of quantum computing in just one of these particular fields, because we are still trying to figure out what could be the different kinds of applications of it. Okay, got. So understand, if they do ask a question on quantum computing, they expect you to maybe analyze the applications on different fronts. So here you have cybersecurity, pharmacy, artificial intelligence, financial modeling, logistics, material science, weather and climate, and even national security. Now with that, we move on to the next topic, or interlinked with itself, but it can come as a standalone question, which is your National Quantum Mission. Again, the National Quantum Mission came about in 2023. The idea of National Quantum Mission was to, it aims to nurture, scale up scientific and industrial research and development in the field of quantum computing, and create a very innovative ecosystem where quantum technology can rise. So it's not like we are having a lot of ingrowth in it or anything. So we need to slowly build an ecosystem where you can have institutions, academicians, researchers, market players, etc. that are involved in this ecosystem. So we are trying to slowly build that ecosystem, and that is what National Quantum Mission is about. Now, what are the objectives of National Quantum Mission? If they ask you a direct question like that, one of the major things is, if quantum computing has to work, you need very large computing systems that can work on your qubits. So, developing intermediate scale quantum computers, not high scale, intermediate scale quantum computers with the capacity of 50 to 1000 physical qubits in at least 8 years. Very important, because see, if they do ask the objectives, it's not just, you cannot bluff these objectives, because these objectives have clear values mentioned in it, and those things will be there in the examiner's key also. So understand, developing intermediate scale quantum computers with 50 to 1000 physical qubits in at least 8 years. To have satellite-based secure quantum communications. Okay, so when you have satellite-based secure quantum communications, you can ensure that nobody is intercepting into your signals. And the idea is to have this over a range of 2000 kilometers within India. This is your second objective. Third thing is, they also want to have long distance secure communications, quantum communications with other countries. And again, that goes beyond the range of even 2000 kilometers. Fourth thing is to develop certain things called as magnetometers. If anything, these goals are much easier to learn, okay? Because unlike general points, if you are hearing this at least once, you know what to write down. So you need to make quantum computers, you need to have quantum secure communication at a distance of almost 2000 kilometers in India and outside countries. And now you have to have something, or you have to develop something called as magnetometers, which have very high sensitivity in atomic systems. And also to create certain atomic clocks which have extremely high precision timing, communications and navigation. Also to support the design and synthesis of quantum materials such as superconductors, semiconductor structures, etc. To also create certain single photon source detectors that can be used in developing certain quantum communication sensors. Okay, so the objectives are quite easy to think about it, because you are looking at creating quantum computers, quantum materials, have secure quantum communications, and create magnetometers and atomic clocks for the same. So these are the primary objectives of your quantum National Quantum Mission. And how are they planning to create this? They are planning to create this by setting up 4 thematic hubs. 4 thematic hubs. What are these thematic hubs? It is a hub. One is for quantum communication. See, a hub again means it will be in your academic and research institutions. So there you will have a system that will promote research, maybe give funding for the research that is good, try to help once the research is going in a good direction, to help the researcher find a market fit, etc. So what are the hubs that are going to get created? There is a hub that is going to get created for quantum computing, quantum communication, quantum sensing and metrology, quantum materials and devices. If you look at it, if you remember these 4 words also, your objectives are also sorted, because the objectives are primarily all explanation of these parts. Got it? So you have the 4 thematic hubs that are going to get created in your National Quantum Mission is a hub for quantum computing, communication, sensing and metrology, and even materials and devices. If all this is sorted, then what is the challenge that we are facing when it comes to general? And this is not just, if they ask you a challenge about quantum computing also, you can mention this. See, one of the major challenges happening with quantum computing is the very high cost and the complex hardware associated with creating these quantum things. For example, even to house the servers of your normal hospitals or your normal industries, you need very high amount of cryogenics, different electricity, etc. Now imagine if you are having a system that's going to do calculations at the level of millions. Look at the amount of heat that will be generated from there. That means what? You need to have better cryogenics, better storage systems, etc. And for all of that, there is money involved. So high cost and very complex hardware that is needed. Then the need for trained manpower. This is unfortunately a field where you not just, you have STEM graduates, but you have to go beyond that. You need to have people who might even have doctorates or postgraduate degrees in these respective fields, which is quantum computing. So that is also a challenge. Then there is always the global race. See, the global race becomes challenging for us because look at it, US, China, EU, they all are ahead when it comes to quantum supremacy. But considering the fact that we still are in the nascent stages, the amount of achievements that we have made so far are really good. Now coming into the last challenge, which is we are trying to create an ecosystem and everything, but we don't have any framework, a regulatory framework on what is possible, what is not possible, etc. That can be problematic because if somebody researches into something and later on the regulatory framework comes about and says, oh no, you cannot venture into this part because it might be detrimental for the environment or for it's not accurate or something. So what happens is, the regulatory frameworks for quantum computing have to be set up beforehand itself. So the regulatory frameworks for quantum cryptography, all of these things are still evolving, and that is also considered as a challenge. But nevertheless, the National Quantum Mission is a very good step in the direction of achieving your quantum computing skills or quantum computing supremacy. Okay, so I hope that topic is now clear to you. Now we have to move into familiar grounds, which is regarding Digital India. I hope you are aware of this fact that this year is the 10th year anniversary of Digital India. So certain current affairs surrounding this part, certain questions surrounding this part could very well come. One thing that I have envisaged is that, okay, they can ask you a very direct question on Digital India, its achievements, what are the pillars of it, what are the challenges of it, so on. So straightforward question. So you need to be prepared for that. Then another kind of question that I think might be, that you have to be prepared about, and especially a bit of that got asked for your prelims this year, is something regarding digital public infrastructure. Now don't think it will come under infrastructure part, because here we are talking about computing and everything, so it would mostly come under the science and tech part also. Anyhow, anywhere in the paper it comes, you need to have points under it also. So there was a question in your prelims which asked, like, which are the countries that have adopted UPI in the recent times. So this all shows how our digital public infrastructure is actually gaining a lot of, or creating a lot of global impact. So a question on that front also can be asked. So this is what we'll be dealing with in this part. First of all, let's look into Digital India and the 10 years of Digital India. Digital India happens to be the flagship program of the government of India. It was launched on July 1, 2015. Okay, this has helped India now to become the world's third largest digital economy. Okay, so if you want some stat to throw into your introduction, I've put some over here. When I'm saying if it has reached 10 years, it is clearly shown by the fact that India's internet penetration has grown from 250 million in 2014 to over 970 million in 2023. That means that many parts or that many people, and that is from rural areas, everything have been brought online. We are trying to ensure that they are digitally included. Then, to ensure that these services or anything that is the government is providing via digital space, so that it reaches to the public in a proper manner, we have been able to open over 4 lakh common service centers. For example, if you go to the common service center, they'll get you from getting an Aadhaar to linking your Aadhaar to something. Then after that, after the linked part, if you have to get some certificates from something to set up your DigiLocker, all of these things can be facilitated at your common service center. So that has also been very helpful in dividing the digital divide in your, bridging the digital divide in your rural areas. Because of all of these developments, you will see that over 138 crore individuals are now enrolled with your Aadhaar. That means for that many people, they are now included in the formal governance and economy. Okay. Then over the next fact, with over 48 million rural citizens have been now certified also under your PMG Disha, which is actually a program for digital literacy. So these were all possible due to your Digital India. So we've made huge progress in these fronts. So these are some examples of the progress. Now, what exactly was the objective of your Digital India? The primary objective of your Digital India was to bridge the digital divide. Between what? Between areas, between genders, between age groups, between occupations. Okay, so whatever digital divide was there between rural area, urban area, female gender, male gender, occupations of different kinds, age groups of different kinds, it hopes to bridge all of that and to ensure that all of the groups are included. It directly leads to inclusive digital access, be it through any government scheme, government subsidy, any government loans, or even just plain government scheme awareness is now made possible using your Digital India. The objective was to have that. When all of these things happen, the next step happens, which is to drive economic growth. Why? Because when people get digitally included, there is much more scope for improving their skills, finding job opportunities that can be better earning. It can help in migrating to areas that might be prosperous, and because of all this, have a better quality of life. Imagine this, in the last 10-12 years that have happened, you have seen your different digital mediums, like for example your UPI. Now when UPI came about, there's so much of ease in having transactions. Now today, if you go to a metro city, from the person who sends your Golgappas to your, to your bigger companies that are there, everybody is so facilitated by the use of this UPI. So you have more people ready to come and buy products also, because you don't have to be carrying cash around for all of these things. If you just have your phone, you can have these economic transactions. So ease of economic transactions, that is a very important thing. And because there is an ease of economic transactions, it's kind of motivating for more and more people to come forward and be part of the economic structure. So when I'm talking about driving economic growth, it happens two ways. Either you get digitally included, get much more exposure, that will drive economic growth. The next thing is you are at the other end of it and you end up using the different tools. For example, today when you look at, you have several, these aggregator platforms like your Swiggy, your Zomato, your Uber, Ola, etc. Now, imagine a situation where previously to this, where you have so many people getting employed in this. All of them who make money out of this have been able to give some kind of a better, lifestyle or better quality of life to their families. When they have better quality of life, the next kind of education or the kind of exposure, that family gets improves. So digital inclusion in turn creates a cycle of prosperity. And this is what Digital India wants to do. So when we are saying 10 years of Digital India, it's like saying you have led your country into prosperity in certain aspects, at least in your last 10 years. Then, as I said, because of economic growth, your quality of life also improves. So these were the primary objectives of Digital India. But in case they ask you what are the pillars of Digital India, that's a different thing altogether. The pillars of Digital India are broadband highways, public internet access program, information for everyone, early harvest programs, universal access to phones, IT for jobs, E-Kranti, otherwise the economic delivery of services in your government systems, E-governance. So you can just write over here, E-Kranti actually means E-government. And e-governance is performing the government functions through technology, electronic manufacturing. Okay, so these are the major pillars of Digital India. When I'm saying broadband highways and all, it is primarily to ensure free, accessible internet. You would have seen, for example, public internet access program. This is where you have in your railway stations, in your common bus stations, etc. They have a Wi-Fi that is fitted right now. So that is all because of that second aspect that is there. So the idea is to have internet for all, to have information for all, and then finally have economy for all. Okay, so this is the core idea or the pillars of Digital India. Now, if they ask you what has Digital India, or a very broad question about what are the several achievements of Digital India, this is again a map, or this is a mind map sort of a thing that can help you like quickly recollect it. First of all, 2015 Digital India was launched. 2016 is where the BHIM app was launched. Okay, very soon after the BHIM app, you saw what happened. Every other company worth its money. You have now PhonePe, GPay, Paytm, but all of this fine at the end of it works on your UPI, Unified Payment Interface. Okay, so that again was that kind of a revolution happened. In 2017, there was a goods and service tax network that was launched. Again, a digital source where you could file your GSTs, you could ensure that it is done in a seamless manner, and you get your returns based on it, etc. Then coming into 2018 is where PMG Disha was launched. That became so landmark in ensuring digital literacy of our public. Then 2019, you had the national policy on electronics getting approved. Okay, so that again led to a whole new level of boost for both Make in India and Digital India. Then in 2020, in the COVID years, is where the Arogya Setu app was launched. In 2021, the Umang International was launched again for ensuring that you are able to skill yourself using digital mediums. Then in 2022, there's the National Language Translation Mission. In 2023 and 2024 is where our ability in certain digital aspects became recognized by the world when we hosted the G20 Summit in 2023 and then we hosted the Global India AI Summit in 2024. The reason I mention these as milestones is this is exactly taken from the PIB. So you can mention other milestones also that you feel, but I would say that, because it's from the government source, ensure that you don't forget these. Then you add extra that you want. Okay. Now coming into the fact as, so these are the different milestones of Digital India, objectives, etc. covered. Now, what is the challenge of Digital India in our country? See, we were very proud in the beginning when I told you about the penetration of internet in our country, but it just so remains that even after achieving so much of internet penetration, we have still been able to cover only 37% of the rural areas. Okay, so rural internet penetration and digital literacy has been only at still 37%. The next one important thing is, so if we are not improving this, before I go into the next point, so if we are not improving this penetration, rural penetration, what again happens is, again the divide is going to increase because urban area, rural area, already there is a divide. Now on top of it, the urban area is, if they are equipped with digital mediums, what again happens is the amount of money, amount of opportunities that they have will increase. Rural media again, so this, let's say this becomes over here, then what happens is the gap between rural and urban will keep on increasing. So again, so internet penetration has to be fastened when it comes to this. A very important thing when it comes to this idea is, again, I'll say to as a way forward, but yeah, remember this point over here, that the next thing is, rising digital use has led to a lot of cyber security incidents. So you will see that even government websites like your IRCTC, the NEET, the NTA site, National Testing Agency site, have all been subjected to certain cyber attacks, and it has led to almost 13.91 lakh cyber security incidents in our country. So again, this is something that needs to be addressed along with your Digital India's achievements also, that how to curb your cybersecurity incidents. Now that is on one level, the cybersecurity incidents, and then second level is there is a lot of data misuse and privacy issues where people's data is sold to third parties without their consent. That is one. And then, for example, sometimes what also happens is there are certain privacy issues which happen when, the kind of data are misused by scammers. There's a lot on the rise right now where people are losing their money, etc. Then there is infrastructure hurdles. For example, even in those areas where we have been able to give internet, it so happens that there is quite patchy internet. It's not very regular. So there is low broadband speeds, patchy 5G, poor fiber optic coverage, etc. So again, yesterday we had spoken of a very similar thing, which is your space-based internet. So if we do have that, again, this problem gets solved. But again, coming back to this, here in the case of Digital India, this also happens to be a problematic feature. Then coming into the last point, which is again, Digital India has been pretty constant, but there's a lot of delay in certain spectrum auctions. There are overlapping jurisdictions. For example, if you have to have a tower in a certain area, there is the land authority, there is the science and tech, all of these things come into picture. So again, there is a delay involved in creating whatever is the necessary infrastructure for ensuring internet. Now, despite all this, if you look at what the government has been and hopes to do in the future, these are very hopeful measures that are there. For example, the first one is the BharatNet and the PM Vani. BharatNet and PM Vani are primarily trying to ensure that there is fast internet coverage. Now, side by side itself, along with this is where we are also interested in yesterday's topic, which is space-based internet. So, you can connect that topic also over here. So, we are involved. So, when it comes to OneWeb, yesterday I told you. So, OneWeb has participation from your Bharti Airtel group. So, then again, that will help in the, if it gets rolled out, it will help in the, inclusion of more number of people into the internet services. Then to promote regional language content to boost access. Again, that is what your PM translation, national language translation scheme was about. It is in this context that I want to tell you another point, which is the fact that very recently there is another scheme that is being launched, which is your PM. It's your Dharti Aba Jagirdari scheme that is there. This is primarily focused on the tribal population getting included, getting digitally included. And as part of this, they've been able to have such, and this is considered to be one of the most largest inclusion programs, government inclusion programs in independent India, where they are now planning to get your tribal population to enroll into Aadhaar, and in every tribal cluster, they are planning to create a common service center and ensure that all of the needs, like for example, if they are not aware of the digital scheme, government schemes, to ensure that they can access all of it through their mobile sets, etc. So they are trying to include the tribal population into mainland schemes in this way. So again, that is another point that you can include over here. So promote regional language content to boost access, have schemes like specifically focused, have in digital inclusion schemes specifically focused on different groups like your PVTGs, your tribal groups, women, etc. Then develop a very comprehensive strategy to expand your cyber security. Already you have something called as your Cyber Surakshit Bharat, but this needs to be further covered. A lot of times it's even the government sites that are quite vulnerable to these cyber attacks. So as a first step, maybe ensure that the government sites itself are immune to certain attacks. Then support indigenous cyber security research and development, etc. via PLI schemes. And this is primarily for your electronic manufacturing. We already know for electronic manufacturing, there is a production linked incentive scheme that is there. Now to ensure that those electronics can also be used for your digital India. Then effectively enforce the DPDP Act of 2023 to ensure that there are regional data protection offices, etc. Now, and the final point is quite general in nature. We already have a PMG Disha scheme. That PMG Disha has to be expanded much, not just to include people having digital literacy, but to ensure that they have cyber awareness, they have a certain sense of perceptiveness or a skill training when it comes to detecting these scams, understanding that, or to be much more equipped to counter these scams and cyber security, privacy, data breach incidents that happen to them. So these are all the future measures that can happen for your digital India. Now, as I promised to you, from your digital India, the other kind of question that can come about is regarding your digital public infrastructure. So again, because of the prelims hangover also, that question also, it's a clue sort of a thing that I've just thought that let's prepare a little bit on it. So what exactly is digital public infrastructure? Digital public infrastructure are those digital systems that enable inclusive delivery of services at a very large population scale which have an interoperability and open standards. Just think of UPI and this definition will get into your mind. What exactly was UPI? Unified Payment Interface was actually a platform that was created where you could facilitate. So there was a platform which would get connected. They would have when you take the example of UPI itself, it becomes very clear to us, because at the end of the day, what was UPI? It was called as Unified Payment Interface, and this primarily was just a platform. Okay, so on this platform, what did they ensure? There would be a space for us, which the consumer is. There would be a certain linkage between the consumer. There would be certain middle role player, kind of an intermediary. The intermediary can connect to a bank. Okay, then the bank can also connect back to the intermediary, and the intermediary can connect to the consumer. This is what they envisaged. Like, there are these many parts and they can all have linkage. Now imagine, based on that one platform, you had your Google Pay, Phone Pay, Paytm, every other system that you see. All what they had to do is, it's like plug and play. They had to bring, okay, so now Google wanted to create something like that. What they will do is that, okay, can we please use your UPI system to do this? So that UPI now has an operability, or it can be operated with Google systems. Then, or if you have Phone Pay, that's another company. So they also, all of them have the base of UPI. In fact, they are all doing the same thing. Why? Because at the end of the day, the UPI is connected. But what did they all do? They all marketed it on their own terms. They ensured that this intermediary will have connection with several banks that are there. Okay, and they ensured that the payments happen quickly. So each of them compete in the fact that without having any network issues, whose payment gets sorted first. Now imagine that UPI that we have is a digital public infrastructure. Why? Because the UPI got created and UPI was given to free use. So look at it. It is open. It is interoperability. Tomorrow, if Singapore wants to use UPI, it's able to do it, because all they have to do is, on the UPI platform, find someone who can connect with all the banks and everything, and that can be a company. That is how easy it is. Got it? So here, any digital system that enables inclusive delivery of services at a population scale with interoperability and open standards is called as digital public infrastructure. In fact, if they ask you what are the features of DPI or digital public infrastructure also, you can say it has to be it has to be scalable, it has to be interoperable, and it has to have open standards. Okay. Broadly, if you look at DPIs, they are of two kinds. There is something called as foundational digital public infrastructure and sectoral digital public infrastructure. Foundational DPIs are like your UPI. That means that it is designed to establish digital frameworks that encompasses different systems. There is digital identity, then there is payments, and then there is exchange of money. All of that can be possible. That means it covers a large span of digital services like Aadhaar, UPI, etc. Sectoral DPIs or sectoral digital public infrastructure means it is only for the need of very specific sectors like health or your digital literacy, etc. So here, if you look at your Ayushman Bharat digital mission, it is a sectoral digital public infrastructure. Now, the question comes, what is the application of your DPIs? Why do we need DPIs? We need DPIs primarily because, see, first of all, you want to create a digital identity system. Digital identity system means what? Where you, just by giving your biometric data, all your information comes. You don't have to carry your file load of certificates all around the place. You're not your birth certificate, not your voter's card. You don't need any of these things. Imagine if that was the system. So again, to create something like a digital identity system, you need DPIs. To create digital payment systems, you need DPIs to ensure that there is secure financial transactions, digital wallets, payment gateways, banking platforms, etc. It has become so entrenched into our lives that we cannot even fathom a time where all of these systems were not there. Okay, you want a ticket, you have an app for it. You have IRCTC for it. You want a movie ticket, there's an app for that. For every single thing into the digital field, there has been one or the other. Now you have something called as your ONDC. ONDC has made it possible for several small businesses to enter into the digital world. They're able to now get their products out into the public because of ONDC. Because ONDC created a platform that can be used just like, for example, now Swiggy was there, Zomato was there. They all were like, okay, we have created our platform. So government was like, okay, let's create ONDC where any business, from selling food to if you want to sell a cottage industry sort of a thing, to you want to send a machine, anything that you want to sell, you can create an app based on the ONDC platform. That's how simple it is. So imagine how easy it would be to get into the digital world and to ensure that not only you sell your products in the domestic arena, even to send it to outside, to outside countries. Imagine how much of a boost that will be for our economy. So again, coming back to the applications of DPIs, digital payment systems, to create public digital services. For example, all the online services given by the government. If you have that if you've ever used that online certificate program, where, for example, if you want your OBC certificate or your community certificate, you can apply it via online fields. If you want to have your passport, renewed, you can register in that manner. So driving license renewed, all of these things is possible right now through the digital medium. So online services provided by the government, such as e-governance portals, public health information, digital education platforms, etc. Then for data infrastructure. For example, you have your DigiLocker. Your important data is stored, managed, and it can be shared in a very secure manner. That is also made possible. For cyber security frameworks, for example, measures and protocols to protect the digital assets and personal information from cyber threats. For example, something that we've created is Information Security Management System, ISMS. Then obviously for better broadband and connectivity. For all of these things, you have your digital public infrastructure. Now, what is the impact of having digital public infrastructure? Obviously, the impact of having digital public infrastructure is the fact that there is a very huge boost to our economy. Okay. Now, for example, if you look at this, and there is financial and digital inclusion of public. Okay, so you have Aadhaar based authentication. When we did that, for example, we had something called as your CoWIN platform to see how much vaccines were there in store, how easy they could be vaccinated, what are the slots available for it. Think about it. At that crucial time, we were able to create an entire application for ensuring that our population is vaccinated in a proper manner. That was all because we already had an existing or pre-existing structure of digital public infrastructure. So, for over 2.2 billion COVID-19 vaccines were given out under the CoWIN platform, and that was done because of a digital public infrastructure. So, the impact a DPI has, starting from your economy, employment, your health, your digital inclusion, all of this is huge. Also, over 1.3 billion Aadhaar enrollments and over 10 billion UPI transactions, monthly UPI transactions have been made possible by DPIs. So both of these things, and the other extra points that I wrote, is the national impact of DPI. But beyond that also, there is a global impact of DPI. What exactly is the global, or why is it creating a global impact? As I just told you, countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Mauritius, all of them are so excited about the digital public infrastructure that our country is rolling out. Why? Because, see, to create a digital public infrastructure is actually a costly process. But India has managed to do it in a very cost-effective manner. And when India is giving that system to an outside country, that again becomes, because of the, the diplomatic relations that they have, these countries can actually get it in a very cost-effective manner. So they don't have to, for their own nationalized digital public infrastructure, they don't have to depend on your very expensive private technology, or even foreign expensive private technology. Most of the times it might be from US or any of these countries that they don't actually want to have a dependency with. Okay. Then it is inclusive in nature. So any country which is having very large populations, okay, can easily, it's because we have tried and tested this in India. And India has one of the largest populations in the world. So you know the scalable nature of it. You know how much the system can be extended up to. So countries which are having very large populations also prefer this. Then trustworthy, because India has a very proven implementation track record when it comes to a lot of our systems, be it our UPI, be it Aadhaar, be it our CoWIN platform. All of them have achieved a lot of global popularity because how quickly we were able to create these things and how well they worked. So the trustworthiness that India has. Then coming into the geopolitical leverage. A lot of, and as I said, a lot of these the alternatives are your Western big tech companies, and nobody wants to rely on them, especially if you are a developing nation. So considering all of these factors is where our DPI, digital public infrastructure, is now also having a global impact. What are the different examples of it? For example, we have created, they are using a normal API, because see, I said this is a very open system, so it's very scalable. They were able to replicate it globally. Tech diplomacy is happening because again, exporting DPI is part of India's strategy to become a low-cost provider of digital solutions to the global south. It is also building soft power and trust. Then, adding on to all of these things, India recently also hosted the G20 meeting that also increased. India was able to put that forward as one of those chief features that India is offering to the world. So again, that gained a lot of popularity. India so far has also gone on to offer a DPI stack via India Stack Global Initiative to World Bank and UNDP also. So that is how India is raising its worth, and DPI has a huge lot to do with it. Now, if they ever focus on the challenges part, there are certain challenges because that's quite obvious. We've been talking about Digital India, so you know what the challenges are also. One of the major challenges being the fact that there is a need for proper cyber security frameworks. That is still a long way to go. So there is a need for cyber security frameworks when sharing tech. Varied local regulations that say, now we have certain specifications and everything when it comes to how we have done UPI. So maybe if another country wants it, we should be able to maybe customize and give it to them. Then one other problem that India faces in all of these fronts is that India is not, when it comes to data privacy standards, we are not up to global standards yet. So that is also one thing that a lot of, it's preventing a lot of countries from using the tech that we are creating. So data privacy standards must also align with global norms like your GDPR, etc. Then coming into what could be the way forward. One of the major way forwards when it comes to this field is to institutionalize DPI exports. Right now, what is happening is if a country requests, we try and give our DPI. But instead of that, we should have a complete section, a department under your Ministry of External Affairs or something, or even your Ministry of IT and everything, that will focus on creating your different digital public infrastructures for other countries. So instead of being it like, okay, like a small business kind of a thing, we have to have a much more commercial eye for it. We have to have a go-getter attitude in finding the countries that might need our DPI, aligning their interests with the products that we have and trying to get them to actually adopt it. So again, here you have to have a proper institution and a process for your DPI exports. Capacity building. You have to even train for the partner countries' officials on implementation. That is not something that we are doing right now. We are just giving the tech and asking them to use it. But in the long term, if you want a certain tech to be used to its maximum efficiency, those who created it should be able to train the rest of the whoever is the professional in the other countries. So that is one thing that can be focused on. To integrate AI and blockchain, this is something that we are in the path of doing it. For example, when it comes to ONDC and DigiLocker, we are planning to incorporate all of these features into it. So again, that is something of a way forward. Then coming into public-private tie-ups. Encourage your Indian fintechs or startups to provide services on these exported platforms, so that they are also, we are on one way we are exporting it and the platform is there, and so if you have an Indian company also over there, that will again lead to much more economic growth. Then use tech diplomacy forums like your G20, Global Partnership for AI, SCO, etc. to provide to encourage more countries to use our digital public infrastructure and to adopt those systems. Okay, so these are the major pointers of your DPIs. Okay, now let's move on to the next section, which is artificial intelligence. When it comes to artificial intelligence, what I have, because obviously this is not a prelims oriented class where we have to go into the basics of it or anything. What I have planned is the probable areas from where it can come. One is your artificial intelligence and the use of artificial intelligence in urban governance, primarily in your smart city mission, etc. So that is one kind of a focus that I've been able to, glean out of the previous patterns. Another one that I would want to discuss is about the India AI mission. That is also something that I do think needs attention. Then there is a PYQ on artificial intelligence, which is primarily talking about the impact of artificial intelligence on healthcare. So I thought these are three areas that we can explore in artificial intelligence. Now, going on to the first part, what exactly is artificial intelligence? I hope you all know this. It refers to the ability of machines and computer systems to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. What are the tasks that normally require human intelligence? Which is learning, reasoning, problem solving, perception and decision making. Learning, reasoning, problem solving, perception and decision making. So when AI tries to do all of these human intelligence based functions is where you call, or artificial intelligence is where machines try to do all of these normal human functions. There are different subsystems of AI, which is your machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, etc. Okay, so that's a pointer over there. Coming up to why do we need artificial intelligence? And we are now talking specifically about AI in urban governance. Why do you think we need artificial intelligence in Indian cities or in urban governance? First of all, think about your average urban area of our country. The urban areas of India have multiple problems that they face. And each of the problem actually has an impact on each other. One example of such a problem is you would have seen in news as to how, for example, you had your, price hike in your Bangalore metro. Okay. So now imagine this. This is a public transport. There is a price hike in Bangalore metro. So what does the government expect? Okay, yeah, price hike in Bangalore metro. Some people who are going to use the metro, they will now maybe stop using. It just so turned out that the price hike in Bangalore metro in turn affected the common public transport which is there, okay, which led to congestion on roads. Okay, this much part we could have also imagined. It would, because people will start taking their private vehicles. The next impact that happened is a lot of people who used to use the metros but did not have their private vehicles in turn started using the buses that were there. Now, you're like, yeah, that's common possible. But then what is the problem is the buses were not equipped for this new haul of new extra people coming in. In the days after the Bangalore metro hike, you saw multiple buses breaking down on different parts of the city, and that again led to more congestion. Now, imagine how each of these problems just caused. The buses were not ready for extra crowd. The metro hike just led to all of those problems just playing out. Understand? So you can see over here that urban areas face massive challenges, which is congestion, pollution, waste management, infrastructure planning, and delivery of public services. You need a system that could, because see, humanly we've tried to solve these problems. We've tried to solve these problems individually. Now, for example, if the government is not having enough money, they try to increase the price of public transport. But then what happens after that is that we are seeing it only in such a very narrow sectoral view that we are not able to, humans as human policy makers, we are not able to fathom what will be the impact of one action on multiple areas. Now, who can do this? Your artificial intelligence can help out. Why? Because using artificial intelligence, you can recognize patterns. You can analyze the trends in certain areas. For example, if you just feed the traffic data of a city into an artificial intelligence platform, they might be able to see the trends at which the traffic peaks, what are the kind of traffic that is there, what is the traffic in your public transport, what to compensate over there. All of these patterns can be recognized. And because AI can use or can have the ability to do multiple level calculations, the correlation between that transport and maybe the pollution can also be analyzed. So in turn, what we are saying is AI is like the perfect tool to solve this overlapping problems that an urban area faces. So this should be your pitch when it comes to saying what is the use of AI in urban governance. So what are the other points? The other points is AI offers data-driven decision making, predictive analysis and analytics, real-time monitoring. If you've observed in certain cities of our country, we have traffic lights that have AI systems in it, which means that the traffic light, instead of just being like, okay, I will be red for 50 seconds and I'll be green for 50 seconds, based on the traffic of all of the junctions, the traffic signal or the camera on the traffic signal can analyze in which area is the the crowd building up or the congestion building up, and based on that, they can time the traffic signals. Those who are there in several metro cities might have already seen such things. Got it? So again, AI helps in creating all of this that leads to the idea of smart cities. In fact, this is exactly what is the kind of question also that I am thinking that might come about, because instead of just asking what is the use of AI in urban governance, they might just take that entire smart cities. What are smart cities? Smart cities are growth engines of our country, but smart cities are not smart anymore. How to make the smart cities smart? Enter AI. Okay, so this is what, even if it comes out like that, there you can include AI and other techniques also, but use the same content and write that answer. That is the point. Okay, so I am preparing you for all of those questions. technology, AI, urban governance, smart city, making smart cities smart again. You can connect all of these things into this content. Then efficiency for optimal resource allocation, predictive maintenance of urban utilities. For example, if there is this much amount of rain, which drain is going to overflow? What is the technique or what is the precautionary measure you have to take? All of that can also be ensured. Transparency. AI dashboards for real-time citizen feedback can be created. Sustainability. Reduced emissions via smarter transport, energy use, etc. Better preparedness. AI early warning systems for your urban floods, heat waves, etc. can also be created. So these are all the need of artificial intelligence in urban governance. So how do you put it into action? What all areas can you put it into action? First of all, let's look at the application. Maybe for traffic and transport, you can have this predictive traffic control. It's being currently piloted in Bangalore and in Delhi. AI signals are now being used to reduce the congestion. So you can have predictive traffic control, smart signals, route optimization. There's also one more thing. There is in Kerala, there's another example of it where they have used AI cameras to track down or to crack down on traffic violations. So traffic violations getting cracked down means lesser number of accidents. Lesser number of accidents means, again, that is seen as an overall good outcome when it comes to a city. So again, coming to your traffic and transport, predictive traffic signals, smart signals, route optimization, etc. When it comes to urban planning, AI-driven GIS models, that is primarily to understand the geography of certain areas, to to understand the land use predictions in certain areas, to have infrastructure simulation. For example, if a certain bridge comes over here, if a flyover comes over here, is it going to actually help the public? How much traffic can be rerouted? All of those information can be extracted from AI. You cannot just type into it. You can extract from your AI. This is again another current affair that prompted me to put this. That is where Pune is actually trying to create a digital smart city where they have envisaged a Pune which has all of these smart techniques, and they are seeing how this current Pune can be uplifted to that level. Okay, so it's again interesting use of your tech to understand, to actually give a vision of what kind of city you want to be. Okay, so that coming on to the next thing, solid waste management, AI-based waste segregation, collection route optimization, etc. can be done. Again, this is one thing that was done by Indoor Smart City, where they tried to do waste to energy AI sorting. Okay, so again, that is, see, most of these things have been tried out by one or the other smart city. So you can quote these examples also when you have to write this answer. Energy efficiency, using smart grids, AI to balance supply and demand, etc. For example, AI assisted street lighting that was seen in Bhopal. Okay, moving over for surveillance and safety. Computer vision for crime detection, emergency response, etc. Again, AI-based CCTV analytics that is there in Hyderabad. So this will ensure the safety of women, etc. in urban areas. Citizen services, you can have certain chat bots, your AI helplines, etc. for your grievance redressal. Again, this was done by your Nagpur Smart City. They have created an AI chatbot that will give you instant solutions for the problems that you are facing. So from the urban point of view, these can all be the different kinds of applications. There are more applications from what India as a whole has been doing. For example, in the smart cities, many cities are now adopting a AI-based command and control center. Command and control centers, just like you have a 911 number that is there, where you call to a specific thing, they quickly respond and get your emergency sorted. So this is something that a lot of smart cities in India is doing. But what is it? It is AI based. Then there is your Digital India initiatives, which is like your National Urban Digital Mission, which focuses on integrated urban data platforms. Then you have your Niti Aayog's National Strategy on AI, which is identified, for example, any kind of key infrastructure sectors or mobility sectors that need any kind of planning help can be done using this national, or they have given certain guidelines as to how to use AI in these kind of plannings. The last example is what I said. Pune and Surat are exploring the idea of digital twins, which is the AI simulations of their entire cities, to see how to, if there are certain infrastructures here, what is going to be the impact. So to understand and then plan the city based on these analytics is what they hope to do in all of these applications. So I've given you so many applications. I don't know, I have a very strong intuition that this question might turn up. So please try to make your answer very content rich when you are met with such a question, because I've given you more or so a lot of examples and applications that you can use in that answer. Then, what are the challenges of using AI in your urban governance? One major thing is, and this applies not just for AI, if they ask you digital infrastructure also, how, if we had to use it in urban governance. One major problem that we face in all of these things is data privacy and security. Because if you look at an urban center, you're going to be dealing with massive personal data from sensors, surveillance, etc. If it is not stored properly, or if it is not used properly, or if it is misused in some manner, it can be of dire consequences. One situation that I always say is, for example, you are having all of these AI cameras and traffic regulated areas, etc. So a lot of data is getting collected like that. If it was to reach, or if this data was to reach into the hands of maybe an insurgent group or a terrorist group, they would correctly understand as to which are the most crowded points or crowded peak traffic times in a city. Now imagine imagine the kind of dangerous impact that data misuse could happen. I mean, that could lead to. Understand? So these are certain challenges that we face. For example, that one other kind of problem is, nowadays we are only trying to create a lot of our AI systems. But even then, because of a lot of drawbacks that we face in electronic manufacturing, etc., we end up using certain foreign cameras. Could be from China, from some other country, that we use in all of our systems. Now, again, to quote an example, leave all this AI, the mobile phones. You would have heard about this company called as Huawei. And Huawei, it was selling its phones in India. It was very easily available. And then it was found that because it's coming from China, they do have certain techniques in it that can actually retrieve the data from the phone and maybe use it for some other purpose. So it's just a mobile phone. Now imagine it's a mobile phone of an individual. If you have some kind of a system that is getting in the data from so much of public, it can be used for very bad consequences. So again, this is a problem that we face when it comes to using AI in urban governance. Then there is always the algorithmic bias. That means unequal service delivery if the training data is skewed. Again, I keep telling this to students, your smartphone is only as smart as you. Your AI system is only as efficient and as good as the human that has trained it, or the data that has trained it. that means, for example, what are you going to feed into the AI? You're going to feed the data of the, let's say, for the last 20 years, how was the land parcels in a certain urban area distributed? We give the data to it. And we tell to the AI, okay, please, based on this data, you please distribute the land parcels for the deserved people. Now imagine, if in the last 20 years, the land was distributed in some corrupt manner, and that is the data you're giving to the AI will end up giving the land parcels on that same pattern. They will assign it to individuals based on that. So what has happened is there is a bias of the algorithm, but that's only because the training data that has been used is biased in itself. So this is also a problematic thing. Then there is infrastructure gaps. Lack of high quality data and AI ready hardware is a problem. And finally, capacity issues. See, we are going on saying about how AI can be used for all of this. AI can do the work, but then you need people who know how to use this data for using it in planning and designing, etc. So most of the times the urban local bodies in our country lack even the skilled manpower that can operate a normal computer. How are you hoping to have AI in urban governance if that is the scenario? That again is the problematic thing with capacity issues. But nevertheless, as we always say, there is the way forward to it. And the way forward for it starts with the idea that, see, the way forward for it starts with having, and this is quite important, that we have our Digital Personal Data Protection Act and everything. But still the implementation is very slow. The implementation, the bodies that have to be in the forefront to implement it are still very ill-equipped. So this is the first thing. If we want to become really good at using AI, one of the first things is you have to implement a robust data protection. And you should also have certain AI ethics guidelines. And this has to be quickly done. This is not something that needs to be done in the next 10 years. This is more or so like it has to be done in the next 1 or 2 years. Next thing is urban data platforms. You have to strengthen your national urban digital mission for data interoperability and quality. Most of the time you have your NUDM, but the NUDM is not working to collect the necessary data or to compile the necessary data from your urban centers. That is again something that needs to be worked on. And then public-private partnerships. See, in a lot of areas, you have a lot of startups that are actually trying out AI projects. But again, because of the disconnect between the companies and the government and everything, it more or so what happens is they make a company, they find the funding for it, then they go to your Silicon Valley and everything, they set up over there. But the problem needs to be solved here. So again, what you can do is have these startups and research institutions conduct AI pilots in urban areas. So we know if their product can be used for our benefit or not. And then capacity building. To train the municipal staff in AI applications and interpretation. Citizen participation. Ensuring that AI deployments will be inclusive will only happen if the citizens are actively using it. You have an AI chatbot that's ready to give you things, but if you don't use it, the AI chatbot will be very sentient. That means it will just stop, because you constantly, if you have noticed also, when you use ChatGPT, the more and more you use ChatGPT is where it becomes attuned to what your needs are. So again, if you don't use it, what happens is this would be a very stunted system as it is. So again, because of that, what happens is that system that was created for citizen participation becomes useless because of lack of citizen participation. So again, that is our responsibility to use certain tools like this. Now moving on to the 15th topic. We've discussed, I mean, for an area which that they will ask just 2 questions, we have discussed quite some varied areas that are there with yesterday and today. This is the 15th topic that we'll be discussing, which is your India AI mission. The India AI mission, again, just like your National Quantum Mission, is the government giving boost to the AI sector. So the idea is the mission aims to establish a robust AI computing infrastructure, and the Union Cabinet has approved almost 10,000 crore for this particular mission. And in this mission, the idea is they are planning to see, because if AI systems have to work, there is a hardware thing called as your GPUs. Okay, so you need GPUs for any of this. This is the reason why when you would have said, you would have heard Sam Altman, he's one of the global leaders of AI as it is. So when he says that, there are people who get into ChatGPT and type things like, hey, how are you? How do you do today? And you greet the ChatGPT and they think they're being nice to the ChatGPT, but then he says that for every character that you type into the ChatGPT, the GPU, which is a very important hardware, that is getting utilized. So your highs and thank yous to the ChatGPT is actually costing them more money than what is needed. So again, I'm telling you the example. So for every function of your ChatGPTs and your AI systems, you need your GPUs, and you have to have a system where either you have GPUs readily available from some kind of an import or something, or you should be a global production leader of your GPUs. Why? Because these GPUs are quite expensive. We'll come to the topic of it, but as of now, understand why do we need India AI mission? We need India AI mission, or the significance of India AI mission is primarily to reduce the dependency on foreign AI models, to support Digital India and Smart City missions, to enable the sovereign control of our own data and tech, and it has the potential to add hundreds of billion US dollar to our GDP. Now, how are we planning to do this? The key objectives of India AI mission is to create computer capacity. That means creating of a high-end AI computing system with over 10,000 GPUs, 10,000 graphics processing units, okay, to support your AI startups, research, etc. To create an India AI Innovation Center to develop indigenous large multimodal, LMMs that are there, not LLMs, that is language learning models. This is primarily to create large multimodal models for to give to different sectors for use of, for example, you want to create an AI system for health, just like we created a platform in Digital India to create such kind of platforms that where easily the AI data can be processed. So that is the equivalent of this. So almost close to 2,000 crore has been earmarked in this India AI Innovation Center. There's another application, or there's another objective called as your India AI Data Sets Platform. Again, a unified platform to provide very seamless access to any kind of personal data. For example, let's say you are a startup and you are trying to work in AI. Now, you need a lot of data to actually train your systems. Now, how do you get your data? Now, most of the time, this is a constraint. So here, India AI Datasets Platform primarily hopes to create a platform where different data from different government sites will be actually available to startups and researchers, etc., to conduct, to fine-tune their AI systems. Then there is an India AI Application Development Initiative. It is the promotion of AI applications targeting certain government sectors, trying to aim for large-scale socio-economic transformation, etc. So these are all the key objectives. Some more key objectives are there, like India AI future skills. It's quite obvious. Skilling the population through AI to achieve skills in AI at your undergraduate, at your master's, at your PhD programs, etc. India AI startup financing, to ensure that there is funding for deep AI tech startups that are there. Now, for all of this, the government has approved almost, again, for this purpose also, almost 2,000 crore was allocated. Finally, the objective is to have a safe and trusted AI. So, India AI mission has several objectives, starting from improving the computer capacity, innovation center, data sets platform, application development initiative to understand which sector needs what kind of an initiative and to create an app for that. Then future skills platform, startup financing, all of this related to your artificial intelligence. Then, if we have a mission and everything, obviously we have challenges also for it. The major challenges when it comes to India AI, it starts with the GPU, and this is what I was going to tell you. See, as I told you, when it comes to your graphics processing unit, you should either have a way where you can timely procure it for your need, or you should be manufacturing it in your country. Why? Because if you don't have your graphic processing units, what happens is you cannot create your AI systems. So, timely procurement and deployment of GPUs is necessary. High cost of GPUs, like for example, if you look at NVIDIA, and NVIDIA is a global chip manufacturer. So, you'll see NVIDIA's A100 chip, which is primarily used for your, as a graphic processing unit, costs almost $10,000. We are talking upwards of lakhs, okay, for a single chip. So, again, you either have to produce it in your own country, or you have to keep aside huge amount of money for importing these chips. Okay, so again, that is a problematic thing. And then this is a very interesting problem that we are facing, that see, if any AI system needs to be trained, and we are hoping to create AI systems for even local regional languages. But the problem there is, it has to work in local regional language, you should have enough data set to train that AI on local regional language. Again, this is a problem that we are facing, which is the current data sets in Indian languages are quite inadequate for developing effective indigenous AI models. Then the next thing that we are facing is shortage of skilled AI professionals in our country. And finally, as I told you, AI algorithms are only as smart as the data that is being fed to them. So AI algorithms have very increasingly, they are starting to have an influence in decision making. At this point, it's quite important and ethical that these AI data sets are trained on unbiased data. Okay, so these are the different challenges that your India AI mission will be facing. And obviously, as the way forward of this comes about as, you have to incentivize hardware manufacturing. You have to ensure that these GPUs are produced in our own country, because otherwise it will be a back-breaking financial responsibility for us. So, incentivize hardware manufacturing even for your GPUs. Give support, financial incentives, mentorship for AI startups, give them enough freedom to use AI data sets. Established AI focused accelerators and incubators. Like for example, in Telangana, they've created something called as your T-Hub. T-Hub is primarily just focused on AI innovations in Telangana. Something of that sort in, in your cities that have the tendency, like for example, in Bangalore, etc., to have the tendency to create AI-based tools. So all of the necessary data sets, everything that they need can be facilitated into that single hub. Then a national data platform can be developed as a centralized data repository. This is what India AI Data Sets is planning to do. So again, hopefully that will get done faster. Then prioritize AI applications in healthcare, agriculture and education, because these are the most critical sectors. Then finally, foster partnerships from international universities, etc., so that they can come here and work on certain, your faculty exchange programs, research projects, etc., so that they can train our, students and teachers also in these techniques, because they are comparatively, they have moved ahead, at least in the newer developments. Okay, so I hope this topic is clear. The next topic that we have to discuss is primarily again a previous year question. The question reads as, what is the application of AI in health? Okay, so introduce the concept of artificial intelligence. How does AI help clinical diagnosis? Do you perceive any threat to privacy of the individual in the use of AI in healthcare? This is what the question is about. Now, how do you go about the answer? First of all, you approach the question with defining AI. Don't have it too colored or anything. Just go and directly define AI and why AI fits perfectly in the healthcare sector's needs. That is quite important. Why does AI fit perfectly in the healthcare sector's needs? Because as I told you again earlier, AI can help in pattern recognition. Okay, AI can help in quick detection because of the pattern thing. AI can also help be an aid to expert medical advice, etc. So AI can help in image analysis. If you give certain X-rays and CT scans, etc., with a very high accuracy, the AI system will be able to figure out what is the problem, what is the issue that is there in certain areas. You can have predictive analytics, giving certain health records of individuals, both on an individual level and on a regional level. The AI system might be able to predict certain disease outbreaks. Like, okay, at this, for example, right now, if I'm just assuming that if you give the digital data, health data of Kerala into it, so they might be able to predict, that AI system might be able to predict when there is a Nipah outbreak, at what point, at what month, what you have to be equipped with. So because every year there is a Nipah outbreak, but more or so we think that it is a very random occurrence, but maybe there is a pattern to it. So all of these things can be analyzed and then later on predicted. Then decision support systems. AI suggests certain treatment protocols, etc., and that can be used for research. So for example, both parts, if you are giving a medicine and it is used in certain drug trials and that drug trial data is fed, that data can be analyzed properly, and based on that data, what you also can take decisions on whom to give the certain drug and in what quantity. Then your AI can be functioning as a virtual assistant, as in like chatbots and AI driven triage, where for just your preliminary assessment, have you had any past diseases, what is your, all of those data, that there's a lot of human power that goes into collecting all of that. So if AI is doing all of it, by the time you go to the expert, all of those data that requires just preliminary assessments would be sorted. Then, for example, when it comes to certain examples involved in it, your DeepMind had used AlphaFold to find out what is the kind of structure of proteins and to give drugs based on it. So that is an example. Certain Indian hospitals like your AIIMS, etc., are now using AI to screen for tuberculosis and diabetics in rural health camps. So again, this ensures that there is faster disease detection. Then obviously, what is the risks associated with using AI in health? One of the first things is AI relies on large-scale data collection. That means medical histories, genetic data, biometrics, etc. If none of that is already there, then what happens is it becomes extremely difficult to find patterns and to do any of these processes that we just discussed. Then there can be data breaches or hacking of sensitive health information. There can be commercial misuse of, for example, certain drug companies can misuse the personal health data. You can have profiling and discrimination by insurance companies, employers, etc. So all of these can also happen as a risk associated with your AI. Now moving over to what could be the way forward when it comes to artificial intelligence, specifically in health. When it comes to artificial intelligence in health, develop indigenous AI healthcare platforms which are having built-in privacy safeguards, so that you don't have to, or the people who are giving their data do not have to worry if that data is going to get used or misused in some way. Then you have to have or foster public-private collaborations under India's National Digital Health Mission. Also build a regulatory sandbox to test all of these AI tools that you're using in health in a clinical setting, so that what happens is you are aware of what are the drawbacks, what are the failures that this AI system could face. I hope that answer is now clear. The 17th area that I want to discuss with you here is about blockchain tech, but not a very general blockchain tech, what is blockchain kind of a thing. So this is again me being predictive over here. So look at the past technology that has come. So they've asked nanotech in health. They've asked artificial intelligence in health. So I've already prepared you for quantum computing in different sectors. Now, one other tech that they could ask specifically is your blockchain technology. Blockchain technology has widespread applications, but here I'm specifically taking blockchain technology and its use in your healthcare sector. Again, this is just based on the last patterns. I feel that if they do ask blockchain tech, there is a probability of it getting connected with one of these sectors like environment or health, and health has a higher probability. And in fact, if you get the idea of health, you might have, or if you, at the worst case, if they ask you some very offhand thing also, you might have at least some points to write under it. Okay, so what exactly is your blockchain technology? Blockchain technology is a decentralized and distributed digital ledger technology where transactions are recorded in a very secure, immutable manner across a network of computers. So we all know what this blockchain looks like. So for example, one of the major free features of it is anonymous, it is decentralized, it is very scalable, you can use it for different functions, etc. So you are looking at any kind of transaction that is there, it gets to the peer-to-peer computers that are there, it gets coded. Each bit of data that is there in a blockchain, each block that is there actually, it contains data, a timestamp and a cryptographic link to the previous block. That means even without us knowing, there is a complete chain of data that is there, and you can see that nobody needs to regulate this because it is already regulated. Any kind of data breach can be easily captured because everything is recorded. If somebody tried to take the data from here, it will be easily recorded as to after this which is the next point that this data has been taken up to. Okay, because why? There will be a data, there will be the timestamp and the cryptographic link to the previous one. So it can be easily, it is safe on that front. It is anonymous, it is decentralized, and to a large extent, you can also say that across a different set of computers, if you want quicker movement of data, also you can prefer your blockchain tech. Now, why I just told you, why is blockchain preferred in any application? Because of transparency, efficiency and security. Because again, why transparency? Every transaction that is happening in a blockchain is visible to all the participants who are there in that blockchain. Okay, so if anybody tries to manipulate or corrupt or any of these things, everybody knows which system is the one that is responsible for it. Efficiency, as I told you, there is no intermediaries, there is no regulating authority. So what happens is transactions happen quickly, settlements happen much more faster, especially in governance and banking operations. Coming to security, because there is this cryptographic validation. If somebody needs to access the data, you need to have the cryptographic link to that specific block. In that case, what again happens? It prevents any kind of tampering, and it also ensures that any records that is there, nobody has gotten into it and tampered it. So that it also ensures authenticity of your records. Okay. Now comes the question as to what is the applications of this in your health sector. One of the major applications of your blockchain in your health sector starts with something called as electronic health records management. For example, you have so much of health records of different patients in a hospital and you need it quickly accessed when the patient is there. So rather than having one physical file or anything, what happens is you can store the records on a blockchain so that patients, on one hand, patients can access their data, and even the doctor can access it in a very seamless manner. Now, for example, I am seeing one particular hospital, and this hospital has several branches in all over India. Now, tomorrow, if I'm not in the same city, but I'm going to the same hospital's different branch in Delhi, I should be able to get my details on a very quick manner. Blockchain can ensure this happens. That is electronic health records management. Drug supply chain management. That means to ensure that where all, for example, in where all areas are the medicines stored. If there is any counterfeit medicines getting added, in all of those cases, we'll be able to access. So that with the data of medicines, we'll be able to understand if there is anything extra. Say, for example, from the supplier, so much of medicines come. From here, they are again checking what are the different combinations available. They're updating that in the blockchain. So in between, if somebody is trying to take something or corrupt the drugs or anything, that will be clear to us. Then, to have clinical trials and research data. Again, to store clinical trials and research data, this is a good use of your blockchain. To verify health insurance claims, for example, you can create some structures called as your smart contracts. And these smart contracts, what they do is, because I just told you, nobody can tamper with the data that is stored in a blockchain. So when you have these smart contracts, you can store all your information. Your insurance companies cannot just be like, okay, you didn't tell this to us. There is no confusion between the insurance company and the insured person. So the claims can get settled faster. Public health surveillance. If you want to, as I told you, if you want to ensure earlier, whatever, for example, AI, I told you, right? Similarly, if you're using blockchain, you can clearly ensure the data is stored in a proper manner. For example, what are the vaccines available? What is the number of patients in certain areas? To match the drugs or the vaccines with the population of different areas. For all of that, you can use blockchain. To assess the medical donations and aid that come to hospitals or government aid that is granted to your public health centers. For all of this, you can use your blockchain tech. Then coming to the Indian initiatives that are taken in from your blockchain perspective. First of all, we have something called as your National Digital Health Mission. They are actually exploring the use of blockchain for giving health ID to all the people to secure EHR management, that is electronic health record management, and to use all of that and put it into a telemedicine platform so that people even from the very remote parts of our country can access health services. Then another thing that is being done is Indian startups such as Nuo, Solcare, etc. are testing blockchain solutions for hospital management. So that is also an added Indian initiative. Now again, what are the challenges of your blockchain? The challenges of your blockchain again start with the fact that whatever data is getting collected, you cannot be like, okay, in one hospital they are storing biometric data and the other one they are storing biometric and your psychological data. That cannot be the case. So you should have data standardization across hospitals and states. There's going to be a very high initial cost in setting up blockchains and even having trained people to use it. So that is also a challenge of this tech. Then finally, to have very clear, because if we are allowing for blockchain, we are again opening the idea that you don't necessarily have to have a centralized regulatory authority. That kind of defeats the purpose of we are having Digital Personal Data Protection Act. Why? Because that actually envisages or imagines to have a central regulating authority. So you have to find the balance between where a blockchain data would fit in with respect to the storage of this or with respect to this DP Act. Okay. So now with that, we have, there's one more topic, but that is again, so I'll tell you why I picked that again later. But then right now, what we have achieved is in the areas of your emerging tech, Indian achievements in emerging tech, we have managed to discuss most of the probable areas from where questions could come. The last topic I want to discuss with you is actually something I told you yesterday that, you prepare on your own, but then it was just going on pricking me inside that, what if it comes and you don't have enough points underneath it or something of that sort, because I do feel maybe there is a higher chance of this coming up. So I thought let's have a quick discussion about that. So this is actually not an emerging tech or anything. This is from your space section, but then I decided because this is the last session of science and tech that we'll get, I thought let's just discuss this. Okay. So NAVIC, I hope you all know the prelims related content associated with it. First of all is the fact that NAVIC is it is India's indigenous regional satellite navigation system. It's developed by ISRO. It will cover the Indian borders and 1,500 kilometers beyond India's borders. It has two kinds of services. There is a standard positioning service, and there's also a restricted service. Then there is, it's considered to be much more accurate than your normal GPS because it is created specifically for Indian conditions. Then it operates in your L5 and S-band frequencies. That means that it is much more, it is having a lot more secure nature than your GPS. Then it is independent and it reduces reliance on foreign systems like your GPS, GLONASS, etc. Okay, now comes the applications of your NAVIC that is there, and this is the part, if it does come, it's going to be important. NAVIC has applications in defense, road transport, marine navigation, aviation, disaster management, agriculture, land survey and mapping, timing services, public health and supply chains, and scientific research. This is on an average 3, 6, 9, 10 applications. As you know, for defense and strategy, already know we have a restricted service for that same. So you can have any kind of precise targeting that is needed for military operations. For road transport, real-time vehicle tracking that is there. Because think about every other function that GPS used to do. Now think about a much more accurate Indian version of it. So this is what will happen. So here, now again, there's a mandated NAVIC enabled trackers that have to be put on commercial and public vehicles. It ensures just not only the safety of the vehicle, but also the people traveling in the vehicle. Okay, then guides fishing vessels, etc. So again, in this kind of a system, it reduces accidents, prevents crossing into foreign waters. For aviation, it will augment the GPS systems that are there, just like we have in your Gagan systems. For disaster management, to map affected areas in a quicker manner, to have faster responses in the times of a natural disaster. For agriculture, to have accurate sowing, irrigation and crop health monitoring, so you can get higher yield and resource optimization. Then when it comes to land survey, you will, or for any kind of urban planning to make the maps of certain areas, you can have your GPS. For timing services, as I told you, in your NAVIC systems, you have certain atomic clocks that are there. So for example, to have precise time references for your power grids, telecom sector, banking sector, etc., you can have this. Then coming into public health and supply chains, to track the different vaccine supplies, etc., you can have the GPS system fitted onto it. And then scientific research, any kind of plate tectonics, earthquake studies, etc. that you want. Again, on those aspects also, you can use your GPS. So all of these, if they ever ask you applications of NAVIC, the key point to getting maximum marks would be trying to incorporate maximum number of points into the application side. Then what is India doing specifically with respect to NAVIC? Here again, what has happened is already India has sent NAVIC. Now they are now being said that they have to be integrated into smartphones. BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards, has issued certain standards ensuring that there is NAVIC support in your new mobile phones. ISR is also now working on something called as a dual frequency NAVIC receiver to further improve the accuracy of your signals that you're getting. Also, it plans to expand NAVIC from a regional to a global navigation system in the future. Then again, obviously, NAVIC is met by certain challenges, which is that if you need to have wider adoption, you need to have much more better commercial devices. You need to, if you have to use GPS already see, there is a GPS, but even that GPS is not getting used in Indian agriculture and certain sectors and fisheries, etc. So again, if now NAVIC has to be used also, that kind of an awareness and training has to be done. Then globally, when we are in the future planning to make it into a global system, obviously we will have competition with GPS and Galileo, but that is a challenge for the future. So I hope with that, again, we are over the 2 days of science and tech. You are now equipped with almost 18 probable areas from where questions could come for you. I hope you please, even if you are not watching the entire class or anything, I just hope you at least go through the PPTs and all the points and maybe use it for revision, etc. Just watch the class wherever it's necessary. I know you guys haven't attended the class right now because you are busy with your prep, and I understand that situation also. So at least ensure that you just go through the PPTs and because it will be such a sad thing, because on the day of the GS3 exam, after you come back and then you look into the MEP program and you see that these questions were already discussed. So just for that precautionary basis, try to cover base in that front, and I hope you guys do well. I'll meet you for your environment MEP. Until then, take care and happy learning.